In this video, we're going to show you how to get Minthara, Halsin, Wyll, Karlach, save all the Tieflings, fix the Hellion Heart for Karlach so you can romance Karlach, and basically have a full house of all the companions. Subscribe to the Linus Wilson channel. We give you the secrets to crush Baldur's Gate 3. So this is a glitch. I do believe it will be fixed since in patch 1 they said that you can only recruit either Minthara or Halsin. But supposedly this guy, Pow, came up with this, which was translated by You Zookeeper Game Deep 360 on Reddit. And we're mostly using that method, but we're also using some refinements that I saw on another video brought to you by @JeremyWright5. So this is much easier if you do the party setup that he suggested. So the first thing is that you need to have not killed any goblin leader, right? So there are 3 goblin leaders. Minthara is one of them. You really don't want to have any of them killed. I think somebody said you could get away with having one of them killed, Princess Gut, but I've not tested it. I would say not kill any of the goblin leaders before you start this process. So the first part is going to be in the goblin camp, and then the second part is going to be at Moonrise Towers. And what we're going to do in the overview is we're going to turn Minthara into a sheep, transport her to Moonrise Towers, get her into the cutscene, which she would otherwise not be. But the first thing is to get Minthara so she's dead but not dead. So we need to trick the game into thinking that Minthara is dead. I highly recommend that you knock out Minthara as the first goblin leader you go after. So the goblin camp, if you've played it a few times, you can not aggro everybody at once. So you go in as a neutral character, as a true soul, and then you, I would say, take out all the guards around Halsin in the warg pens, and then right next to the warg pens is Minthara. Take out Minthara and her guards, and hopefully you'll not aggro the whole place, but for Minthara, you want to toggle on non-lethal attacks. Make sure by the end of this fight that she has 1 hit point and it says that she is knocked out, right? And she also gets temporarily hostile. And so make sure she's alive before you start on a rampage with the other goblin leaders. Save before you kill Minthara, save after. Frequently save, because this is very glitchy. This is the easy part. The second is kill both goblin leaders. So you need to do all 3 goblin leaders. You need to kill them all 3 before you long rest. So that would bias this against having a big spellcaster party because it's harder for them to regenerate spells. I would recommend having at least 2 tanks because you want to kill each one of the goblin leaders without long resting, right? So kill or knock out Minthara, kill another goblin leader. Go back, check and see if Minthara is still knocked out with 1 hit point. If she is, good. And then go kill the third one. Check to make sure she's knocked out with 1 hit point. Then go tell Halsin, right? So free Halsin from the warg pens. You probably already freed him, or maybe he's still in his cage as a bear. Tell him that you've killed all the goblin leaders. Then go to Emerald Grove. Zevlor's going to meet you there. Tell him you've killed all the goblin leaders. The game's going to update like they're all dead, right? Because being knocked out is like being dead. And then you can long rest. But once you long rest, go back to the goblin camp and make sure that Minthara is standing up, right? So if you see a splot of red blood where Minthara was, take stuff off or whatever, like I did, but, leave something on her, and if there's just like a splotch of blood in her backpack or whatever, or one item that she has, that's a bad sign. That you need to go back to previous save because you've not saved Minthara. So, but it should work if you kill Minthara first and then kill the other 2 goblin leaders and do not do a long rest between all that. And then, tell Halsin you've defeated the goblin leaders. Tell Zevlor you've defeated the goblin leaders. You should have the party at your camp. And when you wake up and then you go back to the goblin camp, Minthara should be standing around there, yellow, neutral, unable to talk. So as long as you don't attack her, everything's fine. And so from this point on, until you hit level 7, you don't really need to do anything. I would just periodically go back and check on Minthara if you're worried that you're not going to get her. Because it would be awful to go from like level 4 to level 7, thinking that you're going to get Minthara at level 7, and you don't. So why level 7? It's because you need 2 spells. You need polymorph. You can get scrolls for, and you know, I was trying polymorph with her, but I did not realize there was this improvised melee weapon that you can use, which essentially allows you to carry her. So basically you improvise a melee weapon and walk as far as you can with that improvised melee weapon, and just as where you're going to throw it, you're going to cancel it. So on a PC, she's going to be a sheep, and you're going to choose a location that you can take that improvised melee weapon, that is the sheep Minthara, and then just before you get there, hit right click to cancel it, and that way you'll put down the sheep Minthara. So polymorph is a level 7 spell, but there's also this spell Dominate Beast. So the druids get this spell Dominate Beast. I was not aware of that you can get a beast to join your party with this spell at level 7. So both polymorph and Dominate Beast are level 4 spells that you don't get level 4 spells until you hit level 7. So after you kind of save the grove here, then you just want to get to level 7, but before you go back to Minthara to turn her into a sheep, right? So you're going to turn her into a sheep when you hit level 7 or later. That you want to go into Moonrise Towers. So you want to have the fast travel for Moonrise Towers, but you also want to go peacefully in there and pass the checks at the door, right? There's going to be guards at the door. Pretend you're a true soul. You don't have to tell them anything, and you should get in with like no fight or no fuss. And then by all means use the vendors. I got a lot of potions from each one of your players, each one of your hirelings, and each one of your companion members can get a potion from Araj Oblodra, which is on the left side. She's a vendor. There's 2 vendors on the right side. Go ahead, use those vendors. I was pickpocketing them, no problem. But do not go into the middle chamber, which is the throne room. So you do not want to enter the throne room. As soon as you enter the throne room, then Minthara is really dead, right? If she's not in the throne room, when you see Kethrick Thorm judging people, it's all over, and you need to reload your most recent save, right? So if it's goblins being judged and not Minthara, then she's gone. She's dead for the purpose of the game. She'll never be a companion. So, but I had one kind of glitch when I was transporting the sheep Minthara, was that the door to the throne room would not open for me. So it was glitching for me. So I would recommend that you open the door, but do not go in prior to that, and just make sure that cutscene has not started triggering, because if you're late for that cutscene, that's really bad. Okay, the other thing is that I would recommend to stock up on a bunch of dimension door scrolls. So your tank, the one that has 18 plus health, Lizelle here has 22 health. They need to, it would be better if they had the Dimension Door spell. Although you can use your other companions to do the Dimension Door for the sheep, and then just Lizelle jumps to the sheep. I recommend Lizelle because she has the longest leap of any character because she's Githyanki. And she also, by level 7, if she's not carrying the sheep, she can use her Misty Step. Alright, so you're all level 7. What do you need? You need to have a Sorcerer. And why is that? Because the Sorcerer can double the time of the polymorph spell. So this is from Jeremy Wright 5. The polymorph spell is only 5 turns. If you extend it to 10 turns, getting there is not as tricky with Minthara the sheep as it would be if it was half the turns, because you need to get from the goblin camp where you transform her, then you turn off turn-based mode, fast travel to Moonrise Towers, turn back on turn-based mode, and then it's a really long ways from the Moonrise Towers fast travel to the throne room where Kethrick Thorm needs to judge her. So you want to have extended spell metamagic. So when when the polymorph is cast, the sorcerer casts it, and before they cast it, they choose the extended spell. So if they've got a long rest, they should have 7 spell points. I think it's only 3, so they should be able to do that, and that'll be 10 turns. For me, for the sorcerer, the hireling sorcerer, it was 50% spell chance. Before you start casting spells on her, you want to put longstrider on each member of your party. So for instance, that's what I'm having Gale do. Gale is putting on longstrider. I would not use his level 4 spell slot because that allows him to use Dimension Door, but I would use maybe the level 1 spell slots or 3 spell slots so that you have everybody in your party of 4 that has Dimension Door. You also need a druid. Now, I recruited Halsin by this time. That is, I did half of the quest and I woke up Bard and we went through the portal, or Halsin went through the portal with Daniel, and he was willing to join my party. The problem is, he's not willing to go back to the Act 1 region. So you need, since there's no druid companion that you can get by this point in the story that is willing to go back to the Act 1 region, then you either have to respec one of your core companions as a druid, or you need to get a druid hireling. So I just used the druid hireling. And they need that dominate beast spell. So, anything you can do to buff the chance that spell goes through that will save you from save scumming. So it was a 25% chance for this level 7 druid who'd put all his points in wisdom to cast Dominate Beast. So not a very high chance. So you may have to do some save scumming. So you want to save at each point here when you get the successful sheep cast, and then when you get the successful Dominate Beast. And you don't want to go past one turn. This should all happen in one turn. You're in turn-based mode at the Goblin camp there. All right. So once Minthara is a sheep and she's dominated, so that you can kind of control her, and she's attached to one of your characters, which would be your druid. She'll be attached to your druid because the druid casts the spell. Then you want to switch to Minthara as the character you're controlling, and quickly, right? So be ready with your finger over the map so you can fast travel. You want to turn off turn-based mode and then hit Moonrise Towers fast travel. So if you're fast traveling with your other companions, even if you're grouped, Minthara did not come with me, you need to have Minthara do the fast travel. That is, you've selected Minthara and you hit the fast travel point on the map, and that was when Minthara came with me. The other times I was like, where did Minthara go? Where is Minthara? So that's one potential thing. And then once you get there, you're going to have to wait a few seconds, but you want to be ready to turn on turn-based mode as much as possible. So I think only one turn elapsed for me. We were like on turn 9 of her polymorph because we doubled it from 5, and we're in turn 9. So now we've got our big strength character. And so what you want to do is have your strength character use the improvised weapon melee. You're going to, on a PC, you're going to left click to show the furthest distance you can do that. And then you're going to right click right before you get there, because if you throw Minthara, the game's up, right? Then she's going to take damage. She can't take any damage here at all. And then that being said, I would say that she may be a bit more well, I mean, you might have one turn of throwing her, but the Minthara, my strength character could also carry Minthara as an improvised weapon. So I do think you need to have, like, maybe not a full inventory. You've got some space in your inventory to pick somebody up that is as heavy as the sheep or Minthara. Okay, so you're going to, once you get the furthest distance with your fighter, and conceivably you could alternate fighters, but I only had one. I had 3 spellcasters, so the Sorcerer, Gale, who's a wizard, and the Druid, right, who cast the Dominate Beast. And that Druid can't cast anything else, right? So these 2 things are concentration spells, Polymorph and Dominate Beast. So they cannot cast any concentrations while she's still a sheep. So you want to have the doors open to the 2 places you're going to get to. I had a lot of trouble because I think I was triggering the cutscene because I got Minthara to right to the edge of the door where the throne room is. and so I had to go back to an earlier save because I think that starts triggering the cutscene. If the cutscene is started just a little bit, then it's all over. And so I needed to actually dimension door her, teleport her right into the middle, right at the feet of Kethrick Thorm. So I got partially up the steps, but not all the way up the steps to the throne room, and that was not triggering the cutscene for me. Okay, so then after that, you should be following along with all your 3 characters, or your 4 characters, but you want to make sure that 3 of them do not get in the cutscene. So your tank, that is the strength character that is using the improvised throw and maybe the dimension door scrolls. You know, if you're desperate, you could use 2 people that get in the cutscene, but you want to have at least 2 people that go down into the dungeon, right? So if you go to the right of the throne room, there's going to be steps going down. That's where she's going to be tortured. So you don't want those people in the cutscene. So once the cutscene starts with Minthara the sheep being judged, switch to your other characters that are not in the cutscene, turn off turn-based mode, and set up. So you're going to want one character to be your character who's going to do the dialogues. Preferably you would buff that character prior to all this, but I found a way that I could get all of the 3 characters down there so they could buff each other, so you would win the dialogues, and there's like 3 roles you have to win. And so the other thing is that the spells that you get from Mirage of Blodra are quite helpful, or the potions you get, and so if those are in your shared inventory, they may also help you win these checks. There's like a luck thing that the Sorcerer has, which is just like guidance, but you can use guidance and that together to win those rolls. But before the cutscene upstairs goes through and Minthara goes down, you're going to have one of your guys inside, and I would say, you know, whoever you think is going to win those rolls the best, or who's been buffed the best. There's a method where you kind of turn Minthara back into herself by shooting her, say, with one of the magic missiles. But I didn't do that method. I think even better than that, because that would aggro her torturers, and you'd have to go through some dialogue or something with that to avoid a fight. Instead, you could lock the door. So if Gale has a lock spell, and it locks the door for like 10 turns, and that's basically all you need to get Minthara into the cutscene. So you're waiting for her to change out of sheep form into her own form. And if you do not lock the door, or if you do not get her engaged into a fight, she's gonna run out the door and then die, right? So immediately. So you want to make sure that she stays in there with her torturers, the little gnomes. Switch back to the person that your tank, this case is Lizelle, who carried her there and dimension door her there. Let that run through. Once Minthara is teleported down and judged, and then they're asking you about, like, what are you going to do with the goblins? Then switch back to Minthara the sheep and the person that you've got in there to do the dialogue checks. The door is locked, so turn off turn-based mode. Have Minthara change from a sheep to a human, or a drow, I guess. And then, as soon as you can, it's not super quick, but there is some timing to this, before the locked door spell wears off, and you can even do this in turn-based mode, but you probably want to turn off turn-based mode until she turns into a human, then turn back on turn-based mode, and then have your spokesperson talk to the torturers, one of the 2 gnome torturers, and that will suck her into the cutscene, and then you just need to convince them to let you take over the interrogation and convince them that you have punished her. So in terms of like the options upstairs with Ketheric Thorm, just say nothing. There are some checks you can do. You might win them, you might not. All you want is for him to judge her, because he's always going to judge her and sentence her to death. So there's nothing you can win really by doing those checks. You can do them if you want. Just have a save, so if you fail them and you don't have the inspiration, go back. So if you're, for instance, if your spokesperson is one of these hirelings, you're not going to have any inspiration because you've not really been playing with them. They are just for the Moonrise Towers portion here. Okay, so you win those dialogue checks and save after every dialogue check in case you have to save scum them. You might have a dialogue check on the outside, and then once you get outside, I think you can fast travel out, but I made a mistake that I fast traveled one of my non-Minthara characters, and I should have fast traveled Minthara. So if Minthara fast travels to the Moonrise Towers waypoint, then another cutscene will go, and she's like, "Can't believe I was an absolutist. Can I join your camp?" Right? And you tell her to join your camp, and then it's done. Basically, she is a companion. She's going to move into the same tent that Halsin is, and they're gonna live happily ever after. And they can both be companions. So that's how you saw them talking to Dammon at the last light in with Karlach, because they're all on board. All the Tieflings are alive. So celebrate, get Minthara some good armor and weapons, and Halsin too, why not? And have at it. Let me know your experiences in the comments. Subscribe to the Linus Wilson channel. We give you the secrets to crush Baldur's Gate. Thanks to Jeremy Wright 5, the commenter, and thanks to the folks on Reddit who figured all this out. But it's pretty glitchy. If something's going to go wrong for you, just make sure that you've not progressed in a way that is not going to work. And the key things is if Minthara is not alive after your first long rest, if she's not alive in neutral after your first long rest, after killing all the goblin leaders, then you've done something wrong. Rewatch the video. If the cutscene with Kethrick Thorm starts and Minthara the sheep is not in it, then it's not going to work, and she's not going to be a companion. Good luck, adventurers. Okay, there's one other caveat that I just want to warn you about, that I don't think anybody will warn you about, is that you're going to be going between Act 1 and Act 2. To be able to be going between Act 1 and Act 2, you need to not find the Nightsong. So if you get to the bottom of Shar's temple and you put in all the purple gems and you walk down into the water and you see the Shadowfell, that's it. You need to reload a save because you won't be able to go back to the Act 1 region. So you need to do this also before you find the Nightsong. Good luck, adventurers.